Oh,
Do is lick my face. That's all he wants to do all day, isn't it? Good boy. So now that's Dudley, everybody. He actually had a terrible accident in his back when he was. He's perfect now, but when he was a year old, he jumped off a chair and busted his back, and yeah, he's ruptured his stuff and all that kind of thing. But anyway, he's back to normal now, thank God. The book is called at the moment Raw Science, which is a play on words, to be honest with you. It's really just talking about anyway, Raw Science. It should be ready in 4 weeks, but I've said that now maybe 6 or 7 times. So anybody reading my articles has been hearing me say 4 weeks for the last year and a half, 2 years. It really seems to be 4 weeks. The publisher has it now. I can't do much more with it. It's just huge. It's an absolute monster of a thing. But it's nearly there, and I just can't wait to get rid of it. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it'll be hardback. To the whole thing, it because of the size of it, there's 1,500 references and hundreds of pages in it. It's in 4 large sections. What do dogs eat? Which is a little bit of what you heard there today. Second section is all about dry pet food industry, and the third section is all about where did we go wrong? Where's the proof? How has the science gone so wrong? So it's a big, long investigation of how dark the stuff is that's going on at the moment in pet food land, and why our vets are falling for it, hook, line, and sinker. So that's a very telling section that I've spent an awful lot of time on. And the 4th section is all about raw feed and all the studies behind it, exactly what to do, exploring every topic in painful detail. So if you're a nerd and you like detail, this will be the book for you. So I've also got it coming out, because it's in 4 large sections, I'm going to do it as 4 ebooks as well. So nobody wants to spend a huge amount on this massive hardback, fair enough. I'll have it in 4 ebooks. So if you just want to learn how to feed your dog and you're already convinced that the dog is quite a meat eater and dry food is, rotten, well then that's grand. Skip the first 2 sections, but I would never skip the 3rd section and the 4th one. So that's the idea of the ebooks. Should make it a bit more accessible to everybody, easier to read. They're very, very normal. Dogs are coprophagic. Do you know what? Actually, I was picked up on this by a vet. Anyway, we'll call it coprophagia for the moment, but I'm going to correct myself on that tomorrow and do a quick little article on it. But coprophagia, the art of poo eating, very, very normal for dogs, domestic dogs. They are poo eating animals. The village dogs in Zimbabwe eat about 20% poo in their diet. So there's lots of different reasons you'll eat poo. It's a little takeaway, and there can be all sorts of things in poo depending on what sort of poo you're eating. So cat poo, they love cat poo because dry-fed cats are generally afforded a little bit more disgusting and possible to digest protein in their pet food, and they don't digest it, and they poo it out. And the dog, who's going around on the minimum amount of protein required for normal growth over 6 months, sees that bit of protein and goes, protein, I need it so badly, I'm going to eat that poo and be delighted. Also, like the bacteria in your back passage produce all your vitamin E and vitamin K and all sorts of stuff. So if you, well, not all your vitamin E, but a lot of it. So if you are a hindgut fermenter like a horse, you're going to produce poops that have all sorts of vitamins and minerals in them. So a dog's going to eat a bit of horse poo, and he might eat a bit of goat poo another day, rabbit poo the other day. So every dog is different. It's also behavioral. They get into it. If you give out to them at the wrong time, they're going to eat it even more. Stress will bring it on. Just out of interest, it'll bring it on. So a lot of different reasons. It's very normal. Eating the wrong poo is not normal. That's abnormal behavior, and it's a behavioral issue. So you just kind of say, guys, you a pup that's been living with its litter mates and no social interaction, wedged into a box for 10 weeks, and you buy him in a car park in your supermarket and he's eating his own poo, you kind of have an idea. This is not great, but lots of dogs do it, and I'm sure other people have other good ideas about poo eating as well, but generally a nutritional type thing. Dudley will eat the odd poo now and again, so you always feel like a bit of a failure when he does it, and you go, God, what am I doing wrong? But what can you do? You're not going to get it right every time. It's a natural behavior, a disgusting natural behavior, Butchers are your friends, right? So particularly butchers that kill their own animals. So depending on where you live, that can be very, very difficult. If you're living in a city, and if there's a butcher in a city, in the bigger cities, most butchers today, let's just deal with Ireland first. We shut down our abattoirs in the 1990s, and we thought it'd be great to copy all the other big countries where they have centrally placed huge slaughtering facilities, dreadfully inhumane, and huge meat processing plants, and kill off the small little plants and the backdoor hobbyist breeders and killers, because they just didn't want to be bothered kind of keeping control, and they thought that would be cleaner. And so, unfortunately, finding your own butcher that kills his own animals is difficult. The reason you want a butcher that kills his own animals is because he's got all the bits. He's got things that you don't see in the supermarket, like tripe and heart. Heart is so cheap. Heart is just a big, fat billet steak for, when I was making raw dog food, I was buying it for 70 cents a kilo. So it's incredible meat and muscle. So those butchers will have that. But also, best before, not bad after for your dog. This dog can eat going off meat, and they are not as susceptible to bad bugs as we are at all. Very hard to give a dog salmonella. It wants to be something chronically sickly wrong with the dog before they get salmonella. Anything in his kind of bin is good for your dog. You don't want all the fat, but you do want any spare tail, meaty ribs, stuff that he had to take off the shelf that day. That's going into my dog. I'm not worried about that. So butchers are a great gimmick, but by far, for the person that doesn't want to use raw dog food companies, and calling into the door of the raw dog food company is always the way to do it, not talking to them online. Can I get any cheap meat off you? It's a ridiculous phone call. No one's ever going to say yes to you. So you need to call to the door, buy your stuff off them, and within about 2 or 3 weeks, you start saying, what can I get cheap on what day? And you start making friends. But the easiest way to get cheap meat is half-price meat in the supermarkets. If you don't want to feed chicken, it's probably going to be beef and half-price fish from the fishmonger. Fish heads are free. Fish heads are phenomenal in our nutrition. And because your dog needs eyes and brains and stuff in his diet, little bits of that. Now and again, fish heads provide that, and they're really meaty. Really good food, fish heads, good fats in there too. So they're for free too. It's another source of cheap enough food. And other than that, you have to lean on the raw dog food companies a bit. Most of them do provide single meats, meat minces and that kind of stuff. So you have to pad up your mixes with that. But as regards trying to find venison and rabbit cheap, so it's not possible. Any raw dog food provider that's selling you rabbit for whatever price per kilo is just selling you rabbit carcass. There's no meat and muscle on it. If a butcher looked at that mince, they'd know straight away, but you're paying huge money for it. When actually you just be better off buying a whole rabbit from someone. So it's hard to find some of the more exotic meats. Buying a whole turkey in Lidl or Aldi, that's cheap. That's only about maybe $3.50 a kilo for the best quality turkey that Ireland can produce, which is very little. We don't produce much turkeys. Almost all turkeys are grown indoors. But whole animals, whole birds, that's kind of where you're going, and chopping it up gets a bit tough. But yeah, I'm not a massive fan of chicken. Certainly not any chicken that didn't have a good quality life. They use a huge amount of antibiotics in them. That OTC, tetracycline, resides in the bones, makes dogs itchy. Phenomenal couple of studies on that. So, if your dog is itchy and can't eat chicken, often they can eat organic chicken. It's not the same thing. So when you see things like that, you go, God, what else is going on? So cheap meat, that's about all the tips I have for the cheap meat. Ever going to be any question you ask me where kibble's going to be the answer. I am never going to tell you Mars bars are good for kids. I'm never going to tell you pizza's good for kids. I can tell you some pizzas are better than others. God knows. In fact, pizza's not a bad feed, to be honest with you, especially if you make it yourself. It's grand. But I'm never going to tell you that's an option for an infant. It's always going to be fresh, species appropriate food. It's just how you design it. A pup eats the exact same as his mother. A mother comes back after hunting and regurgitates the food for the first week or two to a 3-week-old pup once it starts weaning. So it's eating the exact same food. Mum didn't just regurgitate the fatty part of the meal or whatever. Now, pups do benefit from a slightly fattier meal because they're so energetic. They just consume huge amounts of food, 10% of their body weight at 6 weeks, 8 weeks old. So they can eat a slightly fattier meal. The answer would be the exact same raw dog food, pre-made raw dog food, because it's already ground up for you. And the cheaper raw dog foods grind really fine because they don't want you to see what you're getting. The fancier raw dog foods have it kind of chunky. So you might start with a really finely ground pre-made raw dog food of any variety. Give it to your pup, it's fine. It's already going to be fatty because cheap raw dog foods are fatty. Even though they say they're not so fatty on the label, they're very fatty. So that's perfectly fine food for a pup, and away he goes. And then leave out, while feeding bones, you feed right for the type. Big dogs get big bones, smaller dogs can get smaller bones. With pups, I would always leave out a big heap of a beef bone sitting on the ground that they can nibble and gnaw, those pointy teeth coming through the gums, and they're pulling your dressing gown apart. Like, if you leave out a bone, you're going to help them do that and massage those teeth and help them settle and take that pain out of their gums. And they teach it how to pull at the bone, and they get all the good stuff off the bone, good nutrition as well. So teaching them how to eat bones from a very young age, very good. So that's what I'd be feeding to a pup. There's an article on feeding puppies on my website. There's 2 ways to do it. There's quickly stop the dog, starve him for a meal or two, and bounce him onto raw dog food. Simple as that. I do still prefer doing it a bit slowly, giving him a little bit of cooked meat one day. Do you like a bit of cooked chicken? Slightly less cooking the next time. But honestly, I would buy a very fancy pre-made raw dog food from any of the top 2 or 3 companies. You're talking Answer's Pet Food in the States, beautiful raw dog food. Darwin's try to do their best, and there's probably 4 or 5 others making good organic stuff. Over in the UK, Honey's Pet Food, Paleo Ridge, the Dog's Butcher, and those organic type guys. If you put down any of their pre-made raw dog foods, well, Dog's Butchers make pre-made raw, but any of their pre-made raws in front of any dog, they're going to eat it. It's so rare for a dog not to eat it. The problem is if he does turn his nose up at it, then you do have a little bit of a hill to climb down. It's like he's already said, no, I don't like that. And if you try to put it down in front of him again, they go, no, I told you I don't like that. And it's like, I'm after spending 50 quid on this. So that's why if you do it slowly, you don't get those picky dogs. There's a question over it. Does it affect the digestion and that kind of stuff? We haven't seen that happen yet. And there's an awful lot of long conversation, but move them over slowly if they're picky would be what I would say. Be crafty. There's an article there on picky dogs on my website. If you're saying your dog is picky, he's not full, he just doesn't want to eat that dry food anymore, you can't blame him. Okay, it's not tasty stuff. So you aren't going to see a dog walking away from a pre-made raw dog food or any raw dog food on the bowl. They will eat their fill. They'll bust a gut eating the food. So the appetence in the dog, the want to eat the food changes completely. You'll get the meat boogie as the fridge opens. Like, you have just no idea. Like, the change in this dog's life, he's gone from eating this disgusting crap to, I'm eating stuff from the fridge. I'm eating that. I got a handful of blueberries. I'm getting some chicken. I'm getting some like venison and rabbit with blueberries and green beans. Like, what? So every meal is just a 5-star hotel for a dog. So a dog walking away from a meal, it's just not going to happen. And if he's full, you're wasting your money there. You're feeding him a lot of, if he's walking away from a lot of poops, that's your money sitting there. So you need to reassess how much you're giving your dog, Also, pet treats. Anything that comes in a packet that says it's food for a dog is not to be given to, anybody. So look at your treats as well, guys. Rawhide. Oh, stop feeding rawhide. Cooked bones from the pet shops. Don't feed any cooked bones. Very dangerous. But the ones wrapped in plastic in pet shops, they're the ones causing problems in dogs. If a vet pulls a bone out of a dog's intestines, it's going to be a cooked bone, and it's probably a cooked bone after Sunday dinner or, the stuff in pet shops. So any of those disgusting treats, dental sticks, I'm not saying anything that's going to incriminate me, are disgusting. They're just salt, sugar, and carbs for your teeth. They've got sugar in them for your teeth. The people that cause the problem sell you the solution. So it's just raw meaty bones to clean the teeth. So, make your own treats. Treats are very, very simple. There's lots of tips on that on my website as well. Save yourself a fortune. Treats are the best way to make money because they're small packets, so you can get really, really high margin on them. So avoid them. Generally, don't put good stuff in treats. But there's lots of good treat companies out there now trying to make good dry treats and that kind of stuff. So you'll know them. You'll start to see these. More natural is the buzzword now. It's cleaning up in pet food world. So it's more people are doing it, but a lot of people say it's natural just to sell you a product that's in a packet. So just beware.
I'm sorry.
Making your own is best. The DIY, I call it. So DIY raw dog food, doing it yourself, is by far the best because what you've bought is exactly what you've bought, and you've put it in the bowl and the dog has got it, and that's great. Pre-made raw, as I touched upon, is an industry, and if there's 100 raw dog food manufacturers out there, in there you're going to get a few cowboys, and they're going to sell you ground up chicken carcass and charge you €3 or €4 for it. If you're going to spend €3 or €4 a kilo on raw dog food, you're best going in and buying chicken legs from Tesco's, because now you're getting lots of meat, muscle, cartilage, bone, and fat. Perfect. Chicken legs. Okay, €3 a kilo, €4 a kilo if you want to go organic. Not a big leap. But other people are paying €4 a kilo for chicken raw dog food, which is ground up chicken carcass. There's no meat muscle in that. And your dog, as I showed in the pie chart, needs a ferocious amount of meat muscle. But meat muscle is expensive because meat muscle, if you look at an animal, 50% of an animal goes to feed a human. But we take all the good bits and what's left isn't meat, because meat is given to humans and sold at a top price. No pet food manufacturer can beat those sort of kind of facts of food. So the answer to the question is, making your own is by far the best. You can see what fruit you put in there. Is it actually organic? How much did you use? They're like writing things like seaweed on the pet food, but they don't put it in it. Nobody's checking. Nobody ever checks the nutritional content of that pet food. Nobody ever checks a pet food company for their labeling claims. Do they have that in the premises? How often do they buy it that year? Nobody ever checks that. There's nobody checking pet food companies for what they say. So if they're saying they're using organic green lip mussel from New Zealand, okay, You want to quiz them. And you say, right, are you talking about the dregs from the green lipped mussel industry after you've pressed all the good oil out of the green lipped mussel and you're just left with this proteiny thing, okay? Or are you actually talking about the green lipped mussel that has all the good active components in it, which is about 20 times the price? You know which one they're using. So these are really pertinent questions that you need to ask. And a good raw dog food company will tell you exactly which one they're using. And, so be careful of the window dressing and that kind of stuff. So there's your answer. Pre-made raw, there's an awful lot of tricks to make you spend more money than you probably should be on the what went in there. I trust the top 3, 4, 5 raw dog food companies. There's even more coming up that you don't know, but there's the steps that these companies are now taking to put themselves out there as making so much effort to produce top quality clean raw dog food is incredible. They're spending so much effort and money to try to do it that no pet food company is going to get close to them. Certainly no dry food company. So that's going to separate the good from the wheat from the chaff, and that's going to come to light very soon. But that's not my announcement. That's somebody else's. They're so close. They're just talking about it all the time, and they've already had the meetings, and it's a huge amount of effort has gone into it. Nobody gets paid for this. There's no money involved. It's just pure look how good we are, and it'll kill dead the last kind of what's the word. All dry food talks about now is risk, risk, risk. Despite the fact it just kills tens of thousands of pets as all the body count, it talks about the risk of raw dog food, and that works still at the moment for vets that they get appropriately terrified by microbiology. They just think they still are struggling to understand how important that life inside your gut is, and the idea of feeding a chemically preserved product, it's not good for your gut flora, and gut flora is everything. You're essentially a machine, and to keep that gut flora happy, everything that you do and think and say and want is associated with a gut flora. How happy you feel is everything to do with them. So in a way, you're all bacteria. You're far more genetic material than bacteria than this. So the idea that you should poison them and feed them sterile food all the time, it's nonsense. So raw dog food this new announcement is going to change everything, and it's going to show you how important and how well things can be done. But also, a good raw dog food company, as I said, is a canary in the gold mine. If they don't use suppliers that supply them with bad material. So these guys are artists at pinning down suppliers that are good, pay them a bit more and say, I want all your carcass, because I know you're not letting salmonella and E. coli into your chain. You run your slaughtering practices slower, they're better fed, they're whatever, however way you manage your meat. It comes to me and I don't have any problems. So when I grind it up, I'm not going to have salmonella in my product when I test it at the other end. So they use the good suppliers, but that begs the question, why is there so many bad suppliers out there? And the reasons you get from the government of how much salmonella and E. coli in the food chain is absolute nonsense. Anytime that's been tested independently, it shows it's way higher than we thought it was. So big problem, because we want cheap 25p burgers, and then we get annoyed when it's horse meat. That's, you get what you pay for, guys. Again, talk all day about bacteria, but dogs eat off the ground. You're far better off feeding the dog on the ground than you are anywhere else. There was a great study there of Irish soil that came out 2 years ago, and they found more antibiotic activity in soil that could kill 4 of the world's top superbugs better than any other antibiotic that a human can produce, and it's just sitting in the soil. So this kind of brings up why dogs bury bones in the first place. These dogs they will find a bone 20 miles away, buried a few meters down. The idea of putting a light dusting of soil over the top of it to hide it from any scavenging carnivores is a bit silly, because they would find that instantly. Their nose that's not how it works. So it might be that soil is very, very clean, and that there's activities in there. Lots of cultures bury their meat to keep it clean and stored. So why not with bones? So I would say, listen, if I had a big meaty bone and I left it in the ground for a few hours and then took a bite out of it, I would be on my ass very, very quickly, okay? Or at least pooing a lot out of it. Whereas a dog is designed very, very differently, okay? They've got various lysozymes in their saliva. They've got very low gut acids. They've got short, rapid digestive systems, and they have been evolving beside this bacteria for many, many years. It wouldn't do that a scavenging predator, scavenging carnivore, whose nose and whole face is engineered to find carcass, will get the tummy rumbles if you drag the bone across the yard a little bit. Unless your yard is a chemical factory where something in the ground is going to cause them a problem. Absolutely not. Let them drag it across. Stones, grit, it looks disgusting. They're not Total idiots. Let him do what he does, and I wouldn't be concerned about that in the slightest. If anything, I'd say a bit of soil is good for him. People are kind of saying, what's the travel idea for raw dog food? It doesn't travel well. And I actually get asked that all the time. There's a better answer than this, because I said this last time and people weren't very happy, but I'm no purist. I mean, my dog gets stuff, I'll give him anything, to be honest with you. I'll give him anything. If I'm eating a bit of ice cream, he can lick the ice cream tub when I'm finished. I've no problem saying that. Life is too short, particularly theirs, to not give him the little bits and pieces that I love eating. Come on. So anyway, that aside, if I'm traveling with the dog, first of all, I don't believe in trying to feed a balanced diet all the time, to me or to the dog. It just doesn't happen. So I would be, usually, if I'm Dudley comes with me everywhere, I'm going away for 3 or 4 days, raw dog food will keep in a polystyrene tub. So when you order your raw dog food, it comes in a polystyrene tub. So you've already got 2 or 3 days worth of raw dog food there. So you bring the raw dog food, which is frozen, and it slowly defrosts. So if you bring 4 or 5 kilos of it in a box, the outside will slowly defrost, and you scrape that off and you give it to the dog over 3 or 4 or 5 days. You can get 4 or 5 days, 6 days out of a box of raw dog food that just slowly defrosts. Okay, keep it out of the sun. So that's already your answer. When I'm on holidays, I'm always going to go into a shop. They always sell chicken, eggs, tuna. They always sell beef, all that stuff. So he's going to get all that as well. A whole fish from anywhere. There you go, dog. You're eating the fish for a while. Take the guts out. So ideally your fish should be frozen, but again, that's probably my laziness more than anything. So the supermarket is your oyster, and it'll give everything you need to your dog. But if you were really stuck, even tins of tuna are fantastic. It's just protein that's been cooked. A bit salty maybe, but if your dog's raw fed, he's already on a low salt diet. So the fact that he's eating a bit of brine, you pour off the brine, is great. I don't buy any tin fish in sunflower oil, because sunflower oil is plant oil, which is omega-6, and it's cooked. So that's actually the opposite effect of what you wanted from eating that oily fish. You wanted the omega-3, which is anti-inflammatory, whereas cooked omega-6 is inflammatory. It's kind of like those gut drinks for your, take one of the gut drinks that's 25% sugar. It's the opposite effect of what that bacteria wanted there. So it's just nonsense gimmick for you to drink that bifidobacteria and think you're really great after. So that's what I would do. I would bring, what about freeze-dried dog food? Fantastic. There's loads of companies out there selling incredibly not overpriced, because freeze-drying is mad expensive. The British are huge at freeze-drying because they're military, they're a massive standing army, and so they eat an awful lot of freeze-dried food. So they have 2 or 3 huge freeze-drying facilities, and a lot of companies piggyback on those freeze-dried facilities to bring out products. I know this because I was looking into it. And freeze-dried food is great. It's just raw dog food, and it's just slowly had the water sucked out of it, which is incredible preservation. It's the best way to preserve a product, because you haven't touched it with heat or anything that's going to harm your vitamin B complexes and vitamin E's and stuff that just hate this stuff. So it's great food. It's dry. It sits in a pouch, and when you're going anywhere, you just add a bit of water. There you go, dog. Eat your soup today. And it's really, really good food. So freeze-dried raw dog food, can't go wrong. But even, honestly, I give my dog, truth be told, people send me stuff. Okay, so if somebody sent me this amazing new dog food that they made, something like Origin, or one of those dry foods that pretend to use absolutely incredible ingredients, and maybe they do. I haven't been out there, but that to me is, I'm sure, is perfectly satisfactory junk food from a dog. So I eat terrible junk food now and again. Origin are probably trying to make really good dry pet food for the dog. So I'd get a handful of that I've got a cocker with an extremely busy nose, to the point that it's quite irritating when you're trying to walk him on a lead, which I rarely do because it's that irritating, but very busy nose. So I'd get a handful of Origin now and again if I'm sending trial packs, particularly if anybody wants to send me trial packs. I'd open that and I would just fire them out into the garden in the morning time. It's like, get out there, Dudley. If Dudley doesn't get his breakfast first, he just drives you insane. So it's like, I would get out into the back garden, eat that, and he's looking for that food for half an hour, and he's exhausted after it. So it consumes a huge amount of energy to use your brain at all, but particularly if you're smelling. So he'll come back in with a heavy pant on him, and now he's lying down for an hour, and that's fantastic. So I'm not totally against dry food, and if I was a hiker and I just wanted to throw a cheap bag of good quality dry food in the background, I've eaten pizza for 2 days, so what? Don't lose any sleep over